driveway of the Roosevelt Mall, right next to the store that lists the sign that lists all the stores here. Those flames are now kicking up, and I have no idea what's burning. It must be some kind of fuel, and I don't know if that's the gas line, because now I see a team of Philadelphia Gas Works workers, and they look like they're getting back. All right, Jason, I'm gonna step back because I'm looking at guys with hard hats and PGW vests stepping back. That must be the gas line that the police officers were warning me about. And those flames are now picking up. That is across from the house. Maybe that's what caught the house on fire. I can see firefighters on the roof of the house. I don't know if that's the corner house or now two houses in, Jason, but I can see firefighters on the roof. These flames must be a gas line here that is right in the driveway of the Roosevelt Mall next to the sign that says Macy's, LA Fitness, Ross for Less, Sprouts. So, and this must be a gas fire right here. Although I saw the Gas Works team with their trucks back off, they're staying off of only about 100 feet. So nobody's running. There's firefighters walking nearby. So there must not be any danger of an explosion. The gas must be burning off from a gas line because they wouldn't allow firefighters to stand that close to a gas line. But this is definitely a gas line that's burning, and flames are shooting 10, 15, 20 feet into the air. And now here comes the black smoke again from this gas line, Jason.
Yeah, they're going to try to get that gas line off. In the meantime, they're probably searching for victims and trying to search each and every house and store there at Roosevelt Mall to make sure that everybody is okay. And this debris field, Steve, we're talking football fields, several football fields.
This gas line is spinning like a top, like a little tornado, and there's something sticking out of the ground. I don't know if that's a pipe, and I'm taking cover. I'm now at the Cane's chicken store, taking cover behind their doorway. I don't know if they're even open. I could go inside.
There's a Raising Cane's there. Yeah, a lot of food places right there. In LA Fitness, there's a gym. Keep yourself safe, obviously, and we're doing our best to bring viewers pictures, live pictures, as soon as we can of what we're seeing. What you're seeing right now, folks, is video that Steve took on his phone moments ago. Still very smoky and tough to breathe there.
Jason, I'm gonna get off the phone.
Okay.
I can feel the heat from this gas line fire.
Get out of there.
Get off the phone, get you some new video, and get that right to you so we can illustrate to everybody what's going on here right now. Because this is a sight to behold. These flames are so big that they're lighting up the scene. That's why I'm able to see the house that was on fire, and I can see the firefighters up on the roof. And boy, they're doing a great job. There's hundreds of firefighters here. The gas workers team staying behind. And I guess they must realize that's just gas burning off, even though it's ignited. Must be no danger of an explosion here, or you would think they would clear everybody out of here right now. But there's so many people standing close to that. And then I see another smaller fire as I'm looking down Cutman Avenue, which probably is the remnants of whatever that truck or SUV was that's on fire.
Just incredible.
So I'll get off the phone. I'll get right back to you.
Absolutely.
Some video.
Get yourself safe. All right, Steve, thank you very much. Let's go back to that doorbell camera video that we had from a viewer, and on the left side of your screen, I posted this on Twitter, and the replies I'm getting from everyone is that looks like a missile, and it sure does. Now, that doesn't mean that's what it is, but this angle, just the fireball that then ensues after the crash. If that is a plane, it was in a serious downfall at that moment. When you think of some of the planes that fly out of the Northeast Philly airport, there are some smaller Cessnas, there are some private jets as well. No jumbo jets, as you know, out of that airport. But just look at the fireball so you can see why the debris field is what it is in Northeast Philly at the Roosevelt Mall. This happening less than an hour ago, right as people are coming home from work. They're shopping right there. It's a Friday evening. They may be going to dinner at this point. There's no word on any injuries, but it does not sound good. At the moment, Steve Keeley was telling us that there are several fires that are being fueled by underground gas lines, perhaps. The debris, again, from a plane and then from homes and cars that were in the area. Several fires burning. And Steve having a hard time breathing at points there. But again, just watching this video, that looks like it was a midair collision. I don't want to speculate, but some kind of breakup of a plane at that point. You just don't see planes come down like that in Northeast Philly very often. Back to the ground video from Steve Keeley. There's a Dunkin' Donuts right there, and you see fires burning. I don't know if that's a car. As we go over the fence here, I don't know if that's a car or home on fire in this little area. But there's several little fires like that burning as firefighters try to get the gas off, try to put the fires out, and try to figure out what's next. That looks like an underground gas fire burning. And as Steve mentioned, hundreds of firefighters are on the scene here in Northeast Philly. We have been getting, our phones have been ringing off the hook here in our newsroom as people called to tell us what they saw and heard, and really out of nowhere, just a loud bang and an explosion from there. So it's really chaos at this moment here in Northeast Philly. Again, Cottman and Bustleton Avenues right along the Parkway, right at Roosevelt Mall. The bulk of this crash, hard to tell where it hit because there are several different areas. But if you're just joining us, 6 o'clock tonight, around that time, we had reports of a small plane crash that happened here in this area. And a lot of people texting me right now saying, what is going on? And they grew up in this area. They you know, their hearts go out to whoever's involved. And we're getting multiple calls from people, though, who heard the explosion, who saw it, they felt the ground shake. And, you know, and as you can see here, no surprise, that fireball is enough to wake anybody up within a mile or two radius from there. Again, this is from a viewer about a half mile, I'm assuming. And just seeing that fireball right there, it's incredible. We're doing our best to get Steve back. We're doing our best to get some aviation experts on and try to get a ground picture for you. We're doing the best we can to try to bring you the very latest. It is chaos in North Philly, so I'm doing my best to try to navigate you through this what appears to be just a disaster in Northeast Philly right here. And I don't know if you can you hear? I think we had to mute some of the audio from this when that loud bang happens. I think. The person in the house might have cursed a little bit, but you can see what happens right afterwards. And as Steve Keeley reported earlier, gas lines, houses on fire, firefighters there to put car fires out, parking lot, a large debris field that stretches city blocks. Again, Roosevelt Mall is where this happened. And so we're just trying our best to tell you what happened here. There are row homes in this area. There are gas lines that fire crews are trying to shut off, I would imagine. There are people in homes possibly in need of medical attention. No word on any fatalities at this moment, but you have to treat this as a mass casualty event. There's a Dunkin' Donuts. Steve Keeley was down at the Raising Cane's right there, the restaurant right there next to the Roosevelt Mall. That mall is an outdoor mall. You know, and the parking lot there appeared to be empty in some of Steve's videos. Okay, now we are live. We are officially live. Our first live look at the ground from the scene, and this just gives you a glimpse at the response. Every cop, every firefighter in the area you can believe is suited up and there. I believe this looks like it is the area of, and there is going to be a media staging area, I believe, at Bustleton and Cottman. There is still smoke smoldering there from right to left. Philadelphia Fire on the scene. Cops are there as well. And this is going to take quite some time to figure out, first of all, whether anybody in this area needs help. There might be people inside homes that they don't even know about who need medical attention. So they're probably going to have to go door to door as soon as they can get this fire out. And not only that, but what we've learned in D.C. is these debris fields, they are, to preserve them is of utmost importance. But right now, the priority is saving lives, keeping everybody safe, whether there's another threat of another fire from an underground gas line, that is something they're going to have to look into as well. Based on the body language here, it looks like some of these firefighters and police officers here are trying to get the area cordoned off. Media there as well. This is probably as close as we can get, as safe as we can be in this area of Northeast Philly, right outside Roosevelt Mall. You can see this is a kind of a strip mall. There's that Dunkin' there. Okay, yeah, so police have told us that's it. This is as close as we can get, which is fine. Obviously, we probably can't even get Skyfox up over this scene as well, just due to safety, and then we're talking about a possible plane crash. But again, about an hour ago, we've got reports of a small plane. This was described as a small plane crashing in the area of Roosevelt Mall, Northeast Philly, at Bustleton and Cottman. And after that, then we ended up getting this doorbell camera that showed the fireball. Fires were kind of burning in just various locations. Cars were on fire. People felt the shaking like a little earthquake in this area. And, you know, the rest is, you see it. The response, the ambulance is here. It's just chaos. Steve Keeley was on the ground. He says he smelled jet fuel when he got to the scene. He saw what he then later learned were parts of the plane, or a plane. So he backed away, got out of there, and backed up. He wound up at a restaurant there as he was trying to sort through everything. It's just chaos at this moment. That's the only way I can describe it, as we try to learn what that was that fell out of the sky. It very may well could have been a plane. It could have been something else. But that doorbell camera makes it look like, I mean, an asteroid, a missile, who knows, a piece of a plane, or, you know, this was a far away plane, and you just never know what we saw. But this is the result of it. We've got major traffic in the area, obviously avoiding the area at all cost. This is not the time to go drive by and be a looky-loo, and I know some people will, but that's the way it goes. We have Drew with us now, and it's, you know, Drew, it's a rainy night.
Yeah.
That's obviously going to help in some of these firefighting efforts. A little bit of a breeze, it looks like, as well. What can you tell us about the conditions?
So I want to talk a little bit more about the traffic in the area. I've been studying our traffic maps here. So police, as you can imagine, have a good section of that area closed off. So we're talking about Cottman Avenue, that's 73. If you're familiar with the area where it intersects with Roosevelt Boulevard, that is the main area that's closed right now. But the closure extends farther back. So on Roosevelt Boulevard, so we're talking 1, that is closed between Tyson Avenue, and then as you kind of go farther down, as you cross over Cottman Avenue down there. And, you know, Jason, Steve was talking about this a little bit earlier, kind of give that location of the mall as a locator. So just imagine a couple-mile radius outside of that. That's where the roads are closed right now. And then on top of that, you have all these slowdowns as we look at the live traffic flow. And the black, by the way, is where things are closed. I'm going to give you a little feel of exactly where things are closed as we look at Roosevelt Boulevard, which is Route 1. And then as I'll give you a little feel for Cottman Avenue, where those sections are closed, you have all these slowdowns around the area. That's slowing things down on 95. In other words, not letting folks exit onto the Cottman Avenue exit just to keep people moving along. So that's just a little bit of a feel for what we're seeing on the traffic maps right now, Jason.
Yeah, that's helpful. This is obviously an incredibly dense area, probably the most dense area, really, if you think about Northeast Philly. I mean, really a terrible location for something like this, and there is no good location for it, obviously. But the Northeast Philly Airport, there are private jets, there are twin-engine jets, there are private-type jets that fly out of this airport, and Cessnas as well. There are people on the scene sending in pictures of what they believe is a tail, a number from a plane that we'll wait to report. But this is not a small Cessna per se. This is larger than that, at least it appears to be. When you look at that explosion like that, you have to assume it's a larger plane, and we might have to, it might be weeks before we find out exactly what happened, what would cause a plane to fall from the sky the way this did. On the left of your screen, you're looking at another fire that looks like it's coming from underground, perhaps a gas line fueling that fire. That is new video from our Steve Keeley. So this is what Steve was seeing. He was describing what appeared to be a gas line that was causing flames to twirl in like a top, he said. But you see the red tape, too. That is obviously do not cross. Investigators will be there for days and days, I would imagine, to try to figure out what happened. And there are several little fires like that burning across the area of this strip mall. You see the Ross and some of the signs of this outdoor mall in this area. On the right, you see a lot of firefighters waiting on orders on what to do and where to go. They may have to go door to door, car to car, store to store, checking on everyone involved. And I'm sure many of the hospitals are preparing their emergency rooms and triage units to try to see anything. Have you seen anybody who's been injured on this as we get Steve Keeley, who joins us again? Steve?
Jason, no. I'm hearing about victims from the plane. So here's what we got from high-ranking police sources here on the scene, that there were 6 people on a plane that had just taken off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. 2 pilots, 2 doctors, a patient, and a family member is what they're telling me. And I said, is that confirmed? They said, yes. So that's the word Philly police got early on here at the scene. And again, I just want to caution, everything's preliminary when police get this information. But that is what they're being told from folks, I guess, working at the airport, because they're in communication with them, obviously. I was sent a picture of the plane. We'll hold that for now until that's officially confirmed. But it was a larger than usual. I'm with Fox. All right. So I'm sorry. That's police just looking out for my own good. And the smoke is billowing again. So, Jason, I sent in video of the flames I was telling you about the gas line. You got it, brother. Thank you. You got it. Thanks. So they're moving even themselves back just for everybody's safety. So we're moving away from the gas line and the sound of new sirens and more trucks showing up because there's so much on fire here. And the smoke is still billowing, Jason. So that's what we got here. So a plane, a jet, and that's why, and that confirmed the jet fuel smell that we were talking about when we first spoke live on the air. And that would tell you why there's so much jet fuel, because they had just taken off probably with a load of fuel. No word on where it was headed to, but it was just taking off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. And the picture of the plane that a source provided had like at least 6 windows on the side. So this was not a very small one, but what we commonly call as Lear jets, executive jets that would take off. So I'm walking further down the Roosevelt Mall out of the smoke line. Where are you guys moving up at? Well, the opposite way. They said the boulevard, and thank you. They said that way, because they just chased me this way. But go over that way. All right, thank you. Yes.
Steve obviously is having to do some navigating here with police who are asking him to move for his own safety. So he's trying to do that and try to get to a safe place while giving us a little play-by-play of what he's seeing. On the left is video Steve took about 5 to 10 minutes ago of a twirling fire being fueled by an underground gas line in the parking lot of a Roosevelt Mall. And on the right is a live picture on a rainy night here in Northeast Philly of the response from firefighters, hundreds if not more, dozens there, trying to really just get a handle on what has happened with this, what appears to be what Steve described as a Lear jet, a private type jet with twin engines, about 6 windows that may have crashed, and that happened about an hour and 15 minutes ago. This obviously kind of a chaotic scene here, as police and firefighters have yet to give us an update on what's going on. We're doing our best to try to bring you what we know and what we've seen.
Right, and police a top police source telling Steve Keeley that this was a plane that was carrying 2 pilots, 2 doctors, a patient and a family member. So this sounds like it was some kind of medical transport situation. 6 people on that plane. Steve describing it as larger than usual. It was not a small plane, obviously involved in some kind of medical transport, according to top Philadelphia law enforcement officials. And just to see the fire, cars on fire, and this chaotic scene, Steve obviously moving about, trying to bring us the latest details while also trying to stay safe himself, talking about just how hard it is to breathe and the smoke in the air. And then we have all these EMT and EMS workers on the scene also trying to make the situation as safe as it can be for people there on the scene. Yeah,
and that's the first I'm hearing about a medical flight, perhaps, and then you start to wonder what kind of equipment, what kind of items are on this plane that may have caused this crash to be even worse. As far as the explosion goes, I mean, it just it was almost in a nosedive. Can we show the doorbell camera again? It's just incredible to see the angle in which this plane, as it's described, was coming down from the doorbell camera from about half mile away. There it is on the left of your screen, and you'll see the fireball, and it's a lot of people are saying, are we sure that's a plane? But it appears to be. And again, Northeast Philly Airport's less than 2 miles away.
And people saying, Jason, that they heard an explosion, they heard this happen, and then they looked up into the sky. People, reaching out to us on the phone, via email. There you see it again, just crashing down, coming out of the sky out of nowhere, and then that huge fireball. People say they felt the ground shake. Certainly a scary and frightening situation. I mean, this is the ring cam video that we've been showing you this evening. And can you imagine seeing this from your front door and wondering what in the world is happening?
Well, especially when you think about what just happened in Washington, D.C. and a mid-air collision and a lot of people saying, wait, what in the world is going on? Fred Teesey, former pilot, aviation attorney, joins us now on the phone. And Fred, you've flown this airport many times. What can you just tell us about the type of aircrafts that fly in and out of Northeast Philly Airport?
Yeah, so no problem. Thanks for having me on, guys. So I actually used to be based in Northeast Philly Airport years ago when I first came back from New York. My airplane was up at Northeast Philly Airport, so I've flown in and out there countless times. It's an interesting airport. The biggest runway there, it kind of goes up. It runs from like almost parallel to the boulevard up kind of around Red Lion Road. And there's the first thing I can tell you about Northeast Philly Airport is that, it's surrounded by, the urban part of Philadelphia. So it's not like Millville where you take off and the whole world's a kind of an off-field landing strip. So, Northeast Philly is, I don't want to say dicey, but if you're a single-engine airplane and you lose your engine in Northeast Philly, you're descending. And the question is, where are you going to descend?
Right, and that makes it so much more dangerous because of the location of this airport and what can happen, which is what we're looking at right now.
Right. It is what we're looking at right now. It's really hard to tell what's going on. I've seen some of those ring cameras. I saw one on your Instagram account. And so that whatever it was moving at a high rate of speed.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you make of the angle, what appears to be a nosedive or what have you? What can cause a plane to fall out of the sky like that?
Okay, well, a number of things. And so I don't have any problem with speculating. But before I do that, the first thing you want to look at is the weather. And so right now, right before I came on with you guys, I looked at the weather at Northeast Philadelphia. It's what they call 700 overcast, which means it's that when you take off, once you get up 700 feet above the ground, you are in the clouds. The other thing that caught my attention is that in aviation, we use centigrade, and it's 10 degrees centigrade. And the reason we use centigrade, not one of the reasons, is that because as you go up, for every 1,000 feet that you go up, you lose 2 degrees of centigrade, and 0 centigrade is freezing. So now that tells me that the clouds start at 700 feet on the way up, and the ice starts to form at 5,000 feet, right? 10 degrees to 5,000 feet. And so back to the answer to your question, I have no idea what happened here. But one of the things that can cause an airplane to have a problem like that is icing, and particularly this type of weather where you have rain that's falling. And depending on what the atmospheric conditions are above, a lot of times that rain will fall and the water itself will get below freezing, and then it's just looking for something. And when it hits an airplane wing, the water droplets splatter and they immediately freeze. It's called freezing rain. And it is an absolute nightmare for anything other than a jet. I mean, it just the weather. So to answer your question, the first thing that I'd be looking at with this is the weather, because that's the kind of accident that would be consistent with either airframe icing. It's just not an engine failure. People don't understand this. When engines fail, the airplane, airplanes will keep going. I mean, they just need to move through the air to create lift. I mean, they'll definitely go. They won't go indefinitely. At some point, they'll come back down to earth, but not like that.
Right. That was like a nosedive to the ground.
Yeah. It was. And Fred, witnesses are reporting just an immense smell of gas, of fuel. With this possibly being a medical flight, what kind of equipment does a medical flight carry? Oxygen tanks, things that could explode? That's kind of my question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it depends. So the question, that raises two questions if it's a medical flight. First of all, was this a rotary wing aircraft, like i.e. a helicopter, or was it a fixed wing aircraft? They do carry oxygen. I'd be curious what kind of smell that the bystanders are smelling. The more sophisticated stuff burns jet fuel. So the helicopters, the sophisticated helicopters, the medevac helicopters that you see, they burn jet fuel. The bigger airplanes, the medevac airplanes. I mean, I knew people who used to fly medevac on Learjets, which is a private jet that they can use for medevac. So, and those are the kind of airplanes that fly in and out of Northeast Philly. Northeast Philly has a lot of medevac flights go in and out of there because it's easier for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is that you're not, getting in and out of Philly International is a little bit more difficult on the general aviation side. Not impossible, but a lot more difficult. Whereas Northeast Philly, you gas and go.
So stay with us, Fred, as we try to recap what exactly is going on. And we're showing you some new video. But about an hour and a half ago, reports of a small plane crashing in Northeast Philly, right around the Roosevelt Mall area, several fires burning. And Dawn, you had mentioned the amount of people on that plane.
Right. We're told from top police officials, our Steve Keeley telling us that there were 6 people on the plane, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, a patient, and a family member. So that is the presumption that it was some kind of medical transport. Governor Josh Shapiro just making a statement on X saying, quote, "I've spoken with the Philadelphia mayor and my team is in communication with Philadelphia police, with the Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management and the Philadelphia Fire Department. We are offering all Commonwealth resources as they respond to the small private plane crash in Northeast Philly. We'll continue to provide updates as more information becomes available." So Governor Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, has been briefed on what's happening, offering all resources to the Philadelphia area as police, fire, and EMS try to get a handle on this very chaotic scene. But again, as Steve first reported, it seems like this was a medical transport flight with patients and doctors and pilots on board crashing into the streets of Philadelphia.
And we're looking into where that plane was headed, and obviously it's going to be a while before we find out who was on that plane. But Fred Tisi joins us, a former Navy pilot, and Fred, you just joined us to talk about that midair collision in D.C., and now here we are talking about this in Northeast Philly. So when you're talking about 6 people in a medical-type flight, possibly a Learjet 55, this plane could have been headed anywhere. You had mentioned the importance of de-icing, and that possibly being just speculating here, but obviously Northeast Philadelphia Airport, and that's all part of the pre-flight process, correct?
It would be. And so a couple things. So now it's interesting how fluid this kind of stuff is. So we now know that the aircraft was departing Northeast Philly. So it means that tells me it would have been full of fuel. And that's why you're seeing an accident on the ground. You're seeing witnesses on the ground saying that the airplane was full of fuel. Could it be a Lear? That would be consistent with the kind of airplane that comes in and out of there. It could have been a King Air, which is a twin-engine turboprop. It could have been any one of a dozen airplanes. I mean, I could rattle off dozens of airplanes that it could be. To answer your question, you cannot take off with ice on the wings. Now, as I said earlier, the ground temperature is 10 degrees centigrade, which is, what's that, like roughly close to the 50s. So being iced up on the ground before it took off, that's not going to be an issue. So the question is whether or not that aircraft, how long has it been since it took off? Did it climb into icing conditions? Depending on the type of aircraft it is, the first thing you do when you get into ice, if it is, let's say it is a light jet, you get into ice with that thing, you just pull the nose up, you just keep going. Because sooner or later, you get up where the air is so cold that the water's not going to form on the wings. Now, if it's a Navajo, which is a twin-engine, unpressurized airplane that's used for medical transport, that's a piston-powered airplane, that airplane gets into ice, that's a whole different kind of kettle of fish. So, I mean, there's a million different things that go into this. I just can't keep getting away from the fact that the way the airplane came down, which that just tells me one of the 2 things. It was either it could have been a structural issue. Airplanes don't come down that fast. I mean, they just don't.
Yeah.
Unless there's been a structural issue. I mean, there's.
And what kind of structural issue would you think it could possibly be? What could we be looking at?
Well, believe it or not, that's what people don't realize is that the pilot can on either a 747 or the smallest Piper Cub a pilot can pull the wings off of an airplane, and by yanking back. And so what happens is that we see this a lot, or even the tail. A pilot, I don't know anything about the pilots flying this airplane, but a pilot who is not well versed in flying an airplane on instruments gets into rough weather, they panic or they over control, and they literally can overstress the aircraft. And then that's the kind of, again, I have no idea if that's what happened here, but I'm telling you all the different things it could be. So you can get a pilot gets spatially disoriented, but if it was a two-pilot crew, that's less likely, and then actually do something that would either overstress the tail or overstress one of the wings. You see this a lot in these high-performance light single turboprops and light single aircraft that they build, but usually that's an accident that happens to people that are at 21,000 feet and they get too close to a thunderstorm and they pull the wings off the airplane. So,
what about visibility, Fred? Like, would that have been an issue as well?
Well, the answer is to a professionally trained crew in a sophisticated piece of equipment, no. All right, so that gets back to what I was saying earlier, that 700 feet. Once you go at 700 feet overcast, once you go through 700 feet in the climb, that's it. I mean, I've been in weather so bad that I can't see the tips of the wings of my airplane like that, and you have no visibility. And so you fly the airplane solely by reference to the instruments that are on the airplane. They could have had an instrument failure that didn't allow the pilots to keep the airplane upright in zero visibility conditions. So it could have been that. I mean, a lot of these airplanes today, like my airplane, all that stuff's kind of computer driven. In the old days, you literally had vacuum pumps that spun gyros that you used to keep the airplane upright in the clouds. So, could there have been an instrumentation failure that ended up being overstressing the airplane? Who knows? Could there have been icing that resulted in a stall in an effort to try and get out of that, overstress the airplane? I mean, it could be a million different things. I mean, I'd love to know. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle that I'd like to get my hands on right now is what type of airplane,
and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
We're talking to Fred Tisi, a former Navy pilot, an aviation attorney, and many other things. Obviously, an expert in aviation. But there's two stories going on here. There's the plane crash that caused what happened in the sky, and then there's the search and rescue efforts for anybody on the ground in Northeast Philly, at that Roosevelt Mall, at any of those homes in the area that may have been hurt. I think it's probably safe to assume the worst for the folks on the plane. But we have no word yet on anybody on the ground who may have been hurt or worse in this disaster. There are, again, row homes here, stores, people driving, innocent. Again, this is right at rush hour. This happened about 6 o'clock, somewhere around there. And this is a video by Steve Keeley. And just look at the debris field. I mean, that looks like just a terrible scene right after the plane crash, and you saw the fireball from a distance. This is up close. Several gas-fueled fires underground. So,
and pieces of the plane scattered
everywhere.
all over. They're on fire. Homes are on fire. Cars are on fire. I mean, it looks like a war zone out there.
It does.
It's very chaotic. It's frightening. We don't know the extent of any injuries on the ground right now. We're still trying to get that information. And as we had reported, we believe there were 6 people on that plane when it just took a nosedive out of the sky for reasons we're still trying to figure out.
So a massive response, and there you can see some firefighters. This is as close as our live camera can get. Now we've got PECO crews there, so you're going to have gas and electrical workers there trying to probably shut off all of it in the area just as a precaution to get the fires out. That video up in the top left is from about 45 minutes ago, and at that moment there was still smoke in the sky. Steve was having a hard time breathing, and a lot of folks in this neighborhood were having a hard time breathing, smelling jet fuel, smelling gas, and obviously several fires burning in scattered areas, just chaos. Exactly what you'd think a terrible plane crash would look like in a very dense area. Unfortunately, that's what we're seeing in Northeast Philly. And we bring in Fred once again to talk about this plane crash, and just a terrible coincidence here, Fred. When you talk about a mid-air collision and then a plane that virtually just fell out of the sky.
All right, so a couple things are coming. So So it's funny. So now, you guys can't report on this, but I'm telling you some of the things that I'm saying, which gets back to kind of the speculation that I was saying earlier. There was a Lear 55 that operates as MTS, Medical Transport Services, that was scheduled to depart Northeast Philly, I think for Springfield. I want to say Springfield, Illinois. So if you go to FlightAware.com, you can see scheduled departures from Northeast Philly. And that aircraft, a Lear 55, was scheduled to depart. And so that airplane would have a bunch of jet fuel on it. Some of the, a lot of the aviation rumors are starting to swirl around about an instrumentation loss, which is something we had talked about earlier. Who knows if that is what it was? But with a Lear 55, if that's what the airplane is, I mean, a Lear 55 is a very sophisticated airplane. A Lear 55 and a highly trained crew, something kind of went catastrophically wrong.
And so you're saying, based on the FlightAware data that you've looked up, that Lear 55 was taking off Northeast Philly Airport when?
It was scheduled at 6:06 p.m.
And that's
here for a second.
Right, and that's shortly thereafter
right about
is
the time
when this all happened. And Fred, you also talked about, so it would also be completely fueled up. Making this crash with fuel everywhere, which people are reporting smelling jet engine fuel. We've seen all these fires.
All right, so let's look and see here. So that airplane may have made. So we have scheduled departures out of Philly. Looking at FlightAware, right? So then there was another one, Canada Regional Jet, going to South Bend, Indiana. That airplane looks like it got where it was going. One of these Lears looks like it's still up going where it's supposed to. So it's really hard to tell kind of what's going on. I mean, it's some people are saying it was a Lear. Some people are saying it was a Canada Regional Jet. So who knows?
Okay. Fred TC, thank you for joining us, giving us your expertise, and I appreciate what you very much helped us try to understand what happened here. So thanks for your time. We're going to get back to Steve Keeley on the ground. It's been a while since we've talked to Steve, probably at least 20 minutes or so, as he has tried to get to a safe place, and then his reporter instincts kicking in, and he's going to need to sort of tell us what he's seeing, and he'll be joining us in just a moment.
And this all happening shortly after 6 o'clock tonight at Bustleton and Cottman, the Roosevelt Mall. A small plane crashing into Northeast Philadelphia. People seeing a plane taking a nosedive in the sky, and then you see on the left-hand screen there just a huge ball of fire. Emergency crews, dozens and dozens, all available. Fire, police, EMS crews responding to the scene, which has been very chaotic. As we've talked to our Steve Keeley, he's having trouble breathing. He's trying to report the story. Governor Josh Shapiro also making a statement on X saying that he's going to make all available resources available to the city of Philadelphia, offering the mayor, the fire department, the police department, and the Office of Emergency Management any possible help that they could need in handling this huge crisis in Philadelphia that we've been dealing with for about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, the AP reporting that, as we just heard from Fred, saying that this flight took off at 6:06, disappeared from radar about 30 seconds after climbing to an altitude of 1,600 feet. And at least that's what this particular flight did. It's it's only 3 miles from the airport. So however high a plane like that can get in just 3 miles and just a few minutes after takeoff is what we're talking about here. And at some point, this plane, which had been reported to be a Lear 55 medical jet with 6 people on board, 2 doctors, 2 pilots, and a patient and a family member, took off around 6:06, and something awful happened after that, and this is basically the result.
Right, and Fred TC talking to us about that this is a very sophisticated aircraft. And it had a highly trained crew on board, so saying that, something like this is hard to explain.
Yeah. This is a new live look on the right side. That's live. It's a gas station here, and looks like Cottman Food Market right there, one of the strip malls in the area. You still see smoke and sort of a haze in the air. Steve Keeley, can you hear us?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so you're not going to believe this debris field keeps getting wider. So I parked at the McDonald's, as I told you earlier, Jason, at the Boulevard and Cottman Avenue, which is across the boulevard from the plane crash site. Two officers tell me here is an air tank from the airplane, and the air tank has a number 10 on it with jet rescue label on it. So I said how it was a medical jet with two doctors, two pilots, a patient, and a family member, a commander had told me, and that was confirmed by another officer. This would be on a medical plane, an air tank, an oxygen tank that is right on the corner where the McDonald's is, across all 12 lanes of Cottman Avenue, and that's how big the debris field is. I just talked to Sergeant Eric Kripp. I said, any estimated time of arrival on the police news conference? He says, we might have to keep moving it back because we keep finding stuff from the plane. So I'm standing here with this air tank now that hasn't been roped off yet. And I don't know if it was kicked down here or it's down. It's across all 12 lanes of the boulevard. It may have been hit by vehicles and ended up here. But this, they keep moving the scene back. They have closed the boulevard. It was not closed right after this when I was on scene. But this air tank is here, and I'll get a picture in so you can see it. And it's just shocking how much they keep finding. Now, it's dark out. It's been raining, and there's been smoke billowing all the time. I just walked 2 miles to get around everything safely to get to where they're going to have the media news conference, which is at a gas station across the 12 lanes of Boulevard. But they keep finding things, so they may move the media back before they start talking. So I'm going to head back over there. I'll get you a picture where this air tank is. It looks like Philly police are coming over just to secure that now. But what an awful scene this is. And still, I have not gotten any information on potential victims on the ground. This was a crowded mall. It was a packed Cottman Avenue waiting for the traffic lights at the boulevard. And I know firsthand because I was in it moments before or moments after on both sides. So there's your update. I'm going to go back over the scene. I'll get right back to you. And we expect to hear from, I know Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel just arrived. We'll hear from police and we'll learn what they know at this early juncture still. As you hear sirens, fire
with no warning, and suddenly a fireball right in their own neighborhood, houses on fire, gas lines burning. Some of that chaos is wound down, and now we're left to just figure out what's next.
Exactly. And if you are just joining us right now, this was a small plane crash that happened just after 6 o'clock. The plane was departing Northeast Philadelphia Airport. We're hearing different reports on how many people were on board, anywhere from 2 to 6 people. We believe it was a medical transport aircraft. It was headed to Branson, Missouri, to the airport out there, when for some unknown reason, this plane just fell from the sky, burst into flames, causing multiple fires on the ground. This was at Roosevelt Mall. This was at Cottman and Roosevelt Boulevard. We just heard from the mayor. She said right now she does not have any report on the number of fatalities, that she's just asking for prayers. She did confirm that several houses and vehicles were impacted, and we have seen video of a house on fire. We've seen cars on fire. We've heard from people on the ground describing an absolutely horrific scene, and the mayor saying it is still a very active scene right now, giving one of the first of what she said will be many briefings. And Jason, you can only imagine. I mean, it's a damp and dreary, cold, windy, awful night. And tomorrow, when we see the light of day.
Here we go. Hey, Eric. Eric, any idea rough time of when you're going to talk?
Hopefully within 20 minutes.
All right. So within 20 minutes, we're going to hear from Philadelphia Police for the first time. You'll probably hear from the police commissioner and any other people that are here in terms of command for this crash.
It's coming from Jet Rescue Air Ambulance. This was.
You see the car that's burnt up. Shortly after 6 p.m.
He hears something falling from the sky, and before you know it, he turns around and there's a fireball. I mean, look at the camera. You lose sight of everything. That's how bright things were.
And I'm just curious. I'm just wondering where they are in relation to that fireball in the sky, because like you said, he stopped, so they were close enough to hear something loud, and we also have been hearing from other people that they heard an explosion.
Yeah.
So.
And back live, but it's such a heavily populated area that there are many videos, different angles, different. A lot of Ring doorbell. There's some dash cams as well, and you better believe the NTSB will look at each and every one of them to try to figure out what happened. You just can't help but notice it's almost already a fireball before it hits the ground.
Right, and it's kind of surreal. And then we see that fireball in the sky, Jason, and then we see multiple fires on the ground, cars on fire, a house on fire, at a time of the evening when everybody is either headed home from work, from school, headed out for the evening. Again, here's this couple coming home and opening the door and just witnessing this disaster right before their eyes.
Yeah, the people on the ground, I can't even imagine what they saw, felt. I mean, just with no warning, suddenly a fireball right on Cottman between Bustleton and the Boulevard, and now a firefighter's still there. Obviously they're still trying to make sure that there are no danger of fire. Let's go in now and listen to officials give us their first update. It's Mayor Cherelle Parker along with firefighters.
Let me start by thanking each of you for being here. I want to go through some basic facts about what we know for certain right now. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue. This occurred shortly after 6 p.m. this evening. As of right now, we have no reports on the number of fatalities. So right now, we're just asking for prayers for any and everyone who may have been affected. We do want to note that several dwellings and vehicles were impacted. So what are we asking you to do for us right now, Philadelphia? We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911. Don't touch anything. This is still an active scene under investigation. I'm proud to note that all of our federal and state partners, they are either en route here or on the ground with us right now. We did see some neighbors who live in the surrounding community. Just stay in your home. Again, it's still an active scene and it's under investigation. This is only the first of many briefings, I'm sure, to come on this evening. And of course, when daylight comes, when we have more facts and information to share with you. But I do want to say a special thank you right now, again, to all of our federal and state partners and our amazing first responders right here in the city of Philadelphia. Our fire, our EMS, our police department, they have been here working vigorously to ensure that we get this perimeter and the surrounding area blocked off to ensure that we make public safety and health our #1 priority. So we don't have any further information to share at this time. I've spoken to our Governor Josh Shapiro. He is en route. I've spoken to our U.S. Senator John Fetterman, other federal officials, and everyone. All hands on deck. That's where we are right now. Thank you so very much, and we'll have more information to report in the near future.
Thank you, Mayor.
And that appears to be it. Just, I didn't expect a lot there. It's just so fluid, and there's so many things yet to be determined. So Mayor Cherelle Parker, the main point they're saying, if you come across debris, first of all, stay away from the area. Don't touch anything, and if you see any debris, call 911. So that's really was the gist of what she had to say early on. She had no information on injuries, fatalities, casualties on the ground. I would have liked to have known, what the hospital situations are like, what the triage units in some of the area hospitals are like. Still too soon to tell. You're looking on the right at what we believe is ground zero of where this crash happened on Cottman. And on the left, the mayor, along with the police commissioner, Kevin Bethel, and Adam Teal, the managing director, the former fire chief, was all there. But again, they did not take questions. Just a very stern ask of the mayor to don't touch anything. And
Shawnette and Steve Keeley both were saying that there were a lot of people who live in that neighborhood who had come out to see what was happening, to see the scene, some people gawking, and basically